Let's go.
Let it all out, we gon' let it out. With the wounds in the way. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah. With the wounds in the way.
Hey guys, welcome to Wounds in the Way with your girl April, and this is my co-host Melissa. Today we are going to be talking about something that is very familiar to me and that I have struggled with and happens to be one of my wounds that have been in the way, which is abandonment and neglect. I definitely feel very familiar with this in my relationships, with partners, even some friendships, and it's something that I've been on my healing journey with.
Where do you think you actually, like, if you were wound back to, I don't even know where you would go back as far as, but where do you identify like the first time you felt that abandonment?
My first time I felt abandonment, I would say I was about 5 years old.
You know the date, like the actual age.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't really remember. To me, I don't really remember like 4, but I remember my father and my mom, and my father being incarcerated, and that was kind of the start of our family dynamic kind of splitting apart.
Did you know what was going on?
Like, no, I was too young, but I didn't know why my dad was incarcerated. I didn't have any of those things. I just knew that like something was wrong. So
when I don't remember like the whole story, but I remember you had mentioned a while ago to me that that's what had happened with your dad leaving. But then,
yeah.
Did you tell me something with your mom?
So my mom was a at-home mom, and she's the only one from Taiwan here in the States. And so when things happened with my father, she had to try to pick up her life to take care of 4 kids by herself.
4.
And she had no family here. Yeah. So my mom ended up moving to Cincinnati, where my grandmother, who's the mother to my father, was like, I'll take you guys in for a little while. And so we were able to kind of pick up the pieces for a bit. And then my mom left me and a sibling who her name is Jasmine. She left me and my sister with my grandmother.
Wait. So your grandmother's actually your dad's mom?
Yes.
Oh, I always thought that was your mom's mom.
No, she's in Taiwan.
That's amazing. So your dad's mother was able to take you in.
Yes.
And your mom just kind of allowed that to happen so she can get on her own 2 feet.
Right. And then
I see how that would feel like.
And then she took the 2 older kids back to Chicago because she was like, let them go through school, finish them, let them finish out, and then I'll bring back the two smaller ones.
How did you, I mean, I guess we already know how you feel because we're talking about abandonment, but
yeah.
Like, do you remember that feeling of like, my mom left me?
Yeah, but this is the thing. So my mom did a really good job. Once she did get settled back in Chicago, she did a good job of coming back and bringing us back to Chicago or coming to Cincinnati to visit for the holidays. But to me, it hurt even more to have her for just a moment of time and then see her leave again, because I was a mommy's baby. So I remember just being that kid, just sitting outside the window and not understanding, like, why are you coming? Why are you leaving? What is going on? Where is my dad? Why is my mom? Why doesn't my mom want to stay? And no one was saying anything to me because people were trying to protect me, they thought, but it was making things worse for me because I had to try to sort those emotions out alone.
All by yourself.
Yeah, as a little girl. So I definitely felt abandoned, and I felt like no one wanted me. And it starts with your parents, So it's like, if you feel like your mom and your dad are leaving you, like, what else do you have to hold on to?
It's crazy because I feel like a lot of times, and this is why abandonment, the topic in general, really is a wound that so many times can get in the way of progressing in relationships. Because a lot of times, whatever it is that we've experienced that hurts the most, that's like the biggest trauma or the biggest thing that we're afraid of because we've already felt the pain of it, we don't want to experience it again, we will project that into another relationship or like exemplify it or highlight it in relationships that we start to connect to on our own, outside of the ones we couldn't control. Like, we can't control who our mom is or who our dad is or grandparents or any of those things. So just thinking back, okay, you've had those experiences with your grandmother, even because your grandmother eventually passed away, didn't she? So that's another level of somebody leaving you, right?
Right.
Has there been any actual experiences of abandonment that you've experienced in your own personal relationships, like with other people?
Yes, like even for me, I mean, one of those happened to be with the father of my kids, I feel like that was a really trying time. We were young, you know what I mean? I feel like, both of us were new at having obviously children, and I was going through postpartum with my daughter, and I feel like he was trying to figure out his life dynamic with his mom and his family, and I was trying to sort through my feelings with postpartum. And I think it was something he didn't know how to really, he didn't have the tools, and he didn't know how to sort that out to be there and provide and support for me emotionally. And so I felt alone. I felt neglected. I felt like I need your support. I need help. And he just didn't know how to give that to me. And that's not a blame. I think that sometimes I can't be mad at him, because at the end of the day, maybe he didn't have the tools on how to show up for someone who was abandoned. And so, that's also another case scenario. But I definitely felt like I didn't have anyone. I don't have any family here. I don't have any cousins in LA or anything like that. His family essentially was my family. And he was my family. So it was difficult to have the closest person in your proximity feel so far away when you needed them the most.
Experienced abandonment. At
Exactly.
How long were you guys together?
So it was a trigger for me.
That makes sense.
We were together for like 4.5 years.
So in 4.5 years, you guys lived together.
We did. Yeah.
So and then you had kids together. Right. So now you're like starting a life. I don't know that you've ever actually talked about this. Have you actually? I mean, no. I've heard you say sometimes like, he left me. Like, this was not, I'm just going to be clear.
Yeah.
It did become mutual at some point.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, he had made the decision to, I don't know.
Well, he will say, I left him.
Or something like that.
He would say, I left him. But my thing is that if you're saying to someone that you need a break, to me, that's already, you've checked out, right? Whereas when he said that and he couldn't really give to me what I felt like I needed communicatively, I decided to pack my bags up.
Wait, what does that look like? Someone just comes over to you and say, I need a break.
Right.
Oh,
I don't know what that looks like.
You're serious?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
I don't know what that looks like.
That's really what happened?
Yeah, I need a break. And for me, it was like, okay, trying.
I'm so sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't understand this. I'm just asking you, because you had just had the 2 babies at the time.
May was 2 months.
And then, okay, so the father of the babies that you're living and staying with, and you're thinking you're going to now develop a family, maintain, like this process, right, of growing together, comes back and says, hey, I just need a break.
Right.
And you didn't, I'm sure you did, but did you actually ask like why or what?
Well, what can I do to support you? Why? It wasn't really, I still don't know really to this day. Because he never really elaborated. It was just like, I need a break. But then a month goes by and I'm like, okay, at this point, I can't continue to play house if I'm not comfortable. I just had another baby. Like, this doesn't feel good for me, and I've got a daughter now to raise, and I would be damned if I ever had her come to me saying that she was going through the feelings that I was actually experiencing at that time. And so I decided to pack up and leave. And that was when the conversation was, well, I wasn't doing this for you to go, but it was like, well, what were you doing to keep me?
Wow.
You weren't doing anything to have me stay. And so that's when I just decided that it was best for me to move on. And so I think that he would say I left, but I would say he had already checked out by saying like, you needed that break. So
I see.
Yeah.
I could see both sides. I see what
and
you're
it was
saying.
the best thing that he could have done for the both of us. Granted at the time you're like, why? But like, you see the bigger picture later on down the road.
Wait, why do you say that now?
Because we just weren't meant for each other. Like, I feel like, sometimes, especially when you're younger, you just love people, but we don't have the same communication skills. So
you think if he didn't come home that day and say, I need space, that you guys would have just made it work? Or do you feel like eventually this was going to happen?
Okay. I think that we were going to eventually go our separate ways.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's kind of cool. That's why you say it's the best thing he could have did at the beginning, because it's cool that it happened when it did, so you could kind of move on from there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop the feelings of neglect and abandonment that you felt. And that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to be non-biased here and say I can see his side of saying like, I never told you to leave. I just said I needed some space. But this isn't my question though. I'm just wondering, because a lot of the guys will say this, I just need some space. But he still was coming home. Didn't expect you to move, because you just said he didn't expect that you were going to move. So what was it that was being expected? Like, what were the changes? Like, did you see him taking space? Like, what did space look like? Don't talk to me. You stay on your side of the room. I'll stay on. What does that look like?
It's really weird, because I feel like at that moment, because I had Ame and she was crying, and I slept in the room with just her and he would sleep with Mega. But it was kind of like him not coming home as frequent, or staying out a little bit more. really, we not really communicating the way that we used to. It was like the friendship was dwindling.
So
Which is what we started off with, which was like really weird.
that's what held you
So
together.
yeah, and I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm losing my friend. That's what it felt like. So
That makes sense. I'm only asking that because I feel like a lot of times, and I'm not saying he did this because I actually
Yeah.
don't know, but
yeah,
like somebody might say I need some space, and it's almost like, man, I'm missing something out there. Like
could be.
I want to go experience that and then still be able to come home to like the family that someday I want to settle into. I had a little too fast. Let me get what I need to get and still be able to have that. So it's almost like
Yeah,
it's almost like they like the pause button was pause and just expecting you to wait and just
Yeah.
sit here on pause until you're ready to come home and play house again. Like that's, yeah, I could see how that would be a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
This is what I was going to say. So from that perspective of, you know, you feeling abandoned, but
Yeah.
him feeling like I didn't think that that was abandonment because I just said I needed space for a second, and you're internally feeling abandonment. This is what I mean when I'm saying that sometimes we'll project
Mhm.
what we've experienced
Right.
onto our current relationship because you've already experienced that abandonment and you're like, oh, this is so familiar. I recognize this. Like, I don't want to experience this. I don't want to feel this again.
Yeah.
I'm out.
But this is the thing.
backing
I'm really good at communicating. So in our friendship of getting to know one another, he knew my dynamic of my dad's relationship and mine and my mom. And those were things that I shared with him. Those were intimate things that like he knew about me. And so when there were things that happened in the relationship, I would say, hey, I feel, or,
Yeah.
you know, I'm feeling a bit neglected or I'm feeling a bit abandoned. Like, I don't like this.
Did you also
So-
give an answer on how you can help? Like, because sometimes that's my
Maybe
biggest
not
problem.
necessarily at that time. I don't know if I had the skills to be like, you can help me do this. I don't really remember so long ago. I definitely feel like I played my part in the how I communicated back because I didn't have those tools either. So
see.
I think for me, it was more so like, I'm sure I probably was like, "Ah!" as opposed to being as calm as I am now and being a bit in a better space.
Can you do that now? Like,
Yeah.
not can you?
Yeah.
Do you do that now? 'Cause that's one of my
Yes.
biggest like
Yes.
pet peeves is when someone tells me or anyone, this is all the things that are wrong. Like you go to church, it's like, here's all the things that the Bible says don't do. But
Yeah.
then they don't tell you how to fix it or how to do
Yeah.
it or what to do instead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or you made me so mad because you do this to me, or you're this person, and all that person feels is I'm horrible.
Yeah.
I've done all these things wrong. But how can I fix it? So that's why I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
Well,
like,
for me, I feel like I'm really good with that. Like, just help me or like tell me or just communicate. You know what I mean? I'll say that, but maybe I didn't always go into the solution to
That's
the
what I'm
issue
wondering.
of being like, you can do this. I don't really remember if I
can
did.
you?
or
But
not.
I'm saying, can you do that
Oh,
now?
now? Oh, 100. Girl, I'm good with that now.
Okay,
The
okay.
healing. I mean, come on. You're talking about. I had Meg when I was 26. We
Oh,
were
okay.
together when I was what 22, 20. Like we're 23. So it's like 23 and being
Oh, you're a
37. Yeah, like
baby.
no, my communication is like on point. I feel like I'm pretty good at being explanatory with how I feel emotionally.
And mostly
and what I
probably
need.
because you actually, I mean, we've talked about these things before, but
Yeah.
you actually put the work in, whether that's through therapy or even just sitting with yourself
Mhm.
or spending time with God, who created you, who gets to
100
tell you, like,
That's the
this is, yeah.
First of all, I remember when that whole situation happened with me and I remember like, because I was scared. I was like, what the heck? I really thought that this was going to be the person I was going to be
Yeah.
with. Like, I got to take care of these kids by myself. I had just moved into this apartment by myself from just living with him. And it was like, this is my reality. This is life. And I remember just getting on my knees and surrendering. I will never forget that, being on my knees and surrendering with my arms up and just in tears, like,
Aw.
whatever this is supposed to be, whatever you have for me, God, I cannot do this alone. Like, I don't even know where to start. Please, I don't want to cry or shed another tear over this person. I just want to be able to put the energy and the effort into raising these babies. I've got to be strong. And then, I went and started working back at Watts Hospital
remember
down at MLK, I think it was called MLK, Martin Luther King Hospital in Watts. And, went back with my radiation science degree and was like, no, like, it was like my strength was coming back. You got kids to provide for, you know what I mean? I was breastfeeding. I was malnourished at the time. I was doing all the things, you know what I mean? Without having any sort of support, like the support that I felt like I needed.
Yeah.
So, and that was all to me, God. I mean, when I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know how I pushed through. Okay. No, it was definitely God.
Yeah. This is I think that's a huge, well, first of all, it's a huge wound, but it's
Yeah.
also a really big I don't know what the topic that
Mhm.
so many people experience, and that I think sometimes I don't even want to talk about it or
Yeah, it's hard to face that.
admit like I've been abandoned and it
Yeah.
affected me and it
Yeah.
hurt me. I know even for me, like sometimes there's certain things that will happen. I didn't realize this at all, but you know, I two divorces. Well, not two. Sorry. Oh Jesus. No, two divorces, two marriages, one divorce.
Yeah.
And in my first marriage, just feeling like I was abandoned. And now there's so many different reasons for the abandonment and all the, you know,
Yeah.
things that led up to that. But I remember literally feeling like I'm obviously not good enough to stay with. I got to fix all these things. And then that's when like the self-sabotage comes in because
Yes.
you don't understand your self-worth because you're so used to whatever it was that the other people were telling you why you're so bad and why I can't
Yeah.
stay.
Or why they didn't say anything at all, and you were just right back trying to figure it out. You're back
on your
in
own.
that space
Yeah,
again.
by yourself, right? And all those things. And I know that even now in my current marriage, it's wonderful because we do communicate much better. But there are certain levels where one of my biggest thing at the very beginning of our relationship was when he'd get so upset and he doesn't have the. I have an English degree or whatever. That was my
Yeah.
English major, and so I'm very specific on communicating and words.
Yeah.
And whenever he felt like he didn't have the vocabulary or the words yet to communicate to me, he would back away and he would leave. Now he's leaving because he needs to go find the words. And he needs to sit with himself and determine how he's feeling. He's leaving because he doesn't want to just get angry and blow up. But I take that as
You're walking away.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God, he's leaving. He's walking away. Like
Yeah.
at the beginning, I'm like, I hate that. I can't sit and come back. No,
Yeah.
we're going to get through this. We're going to figure this out because I'm not going to be in another failed marriage.
Right.
And to me, walking away, leaving outside the house meant you're abandoning me.
Yeah.
But for him, it was, I just need some space.
Yeah.
Right. And I know those are two different types of spaces
Yeah.
probably that we experienced.
Break in space.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
different situation for
Yeah.
sure. But he just needed, and later on, I you know, we would discuss this and he would explain it, but it didn't feel any less abandonment, I didn't feel any less abandoned
Yeah.
just because he left saying, I just need some space to think. I was still sitting there like, you're not in my physical space. You're not here to work it out with me.
Well, how did you go about communicating that to him?
I didn't do a good job
Oh.
at all. I was like emotional basket case with it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of like head buttoning back and forth until we finally were able to sit down. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, I think for me, a lot of it was really for real. I always take it back to God, but it really was me going back to God and being like, I had to do some internal soul searching. Why am I feeling like this? He literally came back in the house. He's not gone.
Yeah.
He didn't pack his bags. Like,
Yeah.
why do I feel like this? And I think that honestly, the Lord really did start to reveal to me that there were a lot of pieces in my own self that I didn't look at, and I was blaming everyone else for everything else. And as soon as I could sit back and say, oh, wait a second, he actually didn't do that. That's a trigger from my abandoned past circumstance, right? And I'm projecting that on him, and it's not what he's doing. He really does just need a minute. He was, take a beat. I just need a beat. Like, hold on a second. So now the cool thing is I find myself a lot more calm, cool, and collective. He needs to leave. I'll be like, okay. Our therapist helped us with this. He said, set a plan. If you're going to walk out the house, make sure that you verbalize this. And like you said, it's all about communication.
100%.
I am leaving right this minute. I cannot talk about this. And as a matter of fact, I might not be ready to talk about this for a few days. So on Saturday, let's sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah, let's circle back.
But with a timestamp, because I'm not like, because sometimes, because we tried this before without the timestamp, and he'll be like, I will have to talk about this at a different time, and a different
then it's
time
like,
never came up, but it never came. I had to keep
That's
asking,
what I'm saying, but
yes,
like,
and then that gets you more mad, and then you get into another argument about something, and then you forget what you're fighting for in the first place. So it was really important to sit back and understand that take a beat really did mean I just need to think through some stuff. I don't process the way you do. I talk really fast.
Me too.
As you can see, very fast.
Both of us.
so, and he's not. He processes very slow. And for the purpose that he doesn't want to, he wants to make sure that he's clearly communicating.
Yeah, like mindful of what he's saying.
Very much.
Yeah.
So I think that understanding the difference between someone really abandoning you with a malicious intention of hurting you.
Right.
I hate you. I'm going to leave you here by yourself so you can feel what that feels like, because you don't belong. You don't deserve to have company.
Yeah.
Versus, I don't really know how to do this right now. I need to step out for a second.
Right.
And then stepping back, and like you said, I love that you gave that for Omarion, you gave that grace, and you said, looking back on it now, he might not have even known how to do it. He might not have had that information on how to communicate or what to say. And all he knew to say, the only words he knew to form together was, I just need a break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But,
and then it turned into this, to all of these other things.
That's what happened.
I'm actually really proud of you, because I think there's so much speculation that has come. So many people that thought it was like a really bad breakup and you guys hated each other, or you cheated, or he cheated, or there was another thing.
Well, it got bad.
Later. But that wasn't the initial reason why. Like, it wasn't necessarily infidelity or some type of cheating.
Oh, no, it was never that. It was never that. But I think, I think me deciding to leave was like, oh, snap. Like,
do you think that now, today, you sitting in this chair right now has still those potential triggers of abandonment?
I think they'll always be there. Yeah. But now I have the tools to move and shift around them. But I feel like, especially my father passing away this year, I didn't really get an opportunity to have the finalized conversation that I wanted to. So it's kind of like still embedded, but it's something that, thank God, like I've been able to sort through, and I feel like my dad is here, and I talked to my dad, although that might seem a little crazy. There's peace around my dad. So I think that that will always be a part of who April is, but it's something that I've crossed over the hump of that.
How do you think other people, like, what can, like tell your people, how can they
talking about it
struggle?
Really
I know hard. I'm seeing you right now. I'm like, you,
because I just thought about my dad.
I get
that.
But just feeling, and this is the thing, like, because it's very fresh, your dad passing away. It was literally like a month ago at this point, right? Was it a month now?
Like about a month and 2 weeks.
So it's very fresh. But I remember it right when that first happened. My first thought when you had shared with me that he passed away was, did she get to say what she needed to? Because you guys had a really interesting, estranged relationship where you had to protect yourself. So you really did not have that opportunity to speak to him freely and share things and develop that father-daughter.
No, I tried. Like when May was born, when Megan was born, I had a conversation about, you can be a part of his life, and, this is your second chance to be able to have, be a dad, grandpa kind of figure to them, but I need consistency. And the moment that I felt like he wasn't consistent was when I was like, I have to protect my kids. And that was after May was born. And I stood by those boundaries. And I'm not ashamed or mad at myself for doing it, because my protection has to be protecting my kids.
Yeah.
But so that's the part that I feel like, oh, thank God I did that. Thank God that I wasn't like an angry person that was like, no, you can't, and I'm so mad at you. It was like, I tried.
You made that attempt.
And I did that with my dad. Part. And my dad knows that I loved him. And I know my dad loved me, but there was a lot of damage that had been done. You're talking about 20-something years of not having that father figure in your life and still being able to say, I'm allowing you in. Like, that was big for me. So I know my dad understood. So I can live with that. But to, just circle back, that's a piece of me that will always, it will always be there. But I feel like, God is softening that aspect of like, it's okay. Like, you can let that part of you kind of just like go and like let someone in, you know what I mean? You don't have to be afraid of that anymore.
I love that. And that's what I was going to say. Like, to somebody who has experienced those, and maybe not all of that, because you've gone through quite a bit, but some of the just the feeling in general of abandonment and feeling neglected and feeling like someone has literally walked away from them, and maybe that's affected their self-worth, who they know they are, who they think they are, if they're valuable, because they feel like someone might not have found value in them. What would your thoughts be to heal or grow from that specific wound so it doesn't get in the way of future relationships?
I mean, I just feel like communication is just really necessary, in any relationship that you're in, whether that's a friendship, whether that's mom to mom, mom to daughter, or father, or anyone. I think that we just have to do a better job at communicating what it is that we're feeling, and stop expecting that people are to know how to treat us. Sometimes you have to teach people how to treat you. And
for sure.
I feel like I'm getting into a better space of that. And I'm sustaining my relationships longer having that mindset, because the expectations aren't like all the way up here, like you better not be like my dad, or you better. No, it's like, I understand who you are, and this is what you can give, and this is what I can give, and so we can meet each other halfway. And that's all you really can do. You know what I mean? But that's where I'm at with it.
I love that. I think at the end of all of it, when it boils down to, is really being able to understand what your triggers are, knowing that I have an issue. No, I don't want to say I have an issue. I have experienced abandonment, and it's really been a hindrance in my life for several different reasons. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. Sometimes that leads to self-sabotaging, whatever that is. But once you can acknowledge and recognize whatever that trigger is, to really start to peel those layers back and say, okay, I'm not going to project this onto my next relationship.
I'm going to deal with this with self first. That's why it's really important, guys. We've really, really, really got to do the inner work on self before we decide to jump or hop into anything, because these are the things that, you know, the wounds in the way come to the forefront. So I hope you guys out there, just like me, going through things in my life and working on, this is still a journey for me. I'm praying for your journey and hoping that you heal, right?
Amen. Yes, we're going to do it together, guys.
You heal, but yes, we're in this together. Love you guys so much.
Keep healing.
Keep healing.
Wounds in the way.